greetings. So, addressing the recent traffic on modding community about converting into the BLPs, all I wanted was to create a small tutorial on how am I actually doing it, or basically which is the most effective way of doing it, according to my knowledge so far. I'm using the BLP converter for all the conversions, and then only. There is like the BLP guy converter, which is not really effective, as I would call it. But there is also the add-on for Photoshop that can be useful if you are trying to edit a single texture and you are doing lots of testing, like, edit, save, check how it actually looks like, and repeat until you are satisfied with the outcome. But I don't really use that way since I don't use Photoshop at all. So I'm down for using the classic BLP converter 8. To be honest, I don't really remember what is the 6 for right now, so I'm not going to address it at all. Maybe it's some old version. Anyway, this is the way I'm using. It doesn't mean it's the most correct way, or it could be said to be the best way to do it, because there is obviously many ways of doing stuff in modding scene, and this is just the way that I do it. So, how do I actually convert the BLPs while using the BLP converter 8? For first, I'm using the CMD files that are basically executing the commands for my command line console, and to do that I'm actually using a Windows path environment. So let's start with the basics. Here we have I will create a new folder. Here we have the converter, and let me just grab some image real quick. There could be some PNG. There is one PNG. There it is. Kinda big one. It has 2000 dimensions, so I will downscale it to just 200, so it actually converts a bit faster, but obviously I'm losing the quality here. And also don't forget on the fact that World of Warcraft needs only 2 dimensionals, like 2 powers by something like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 40, 60, 64, actually 64. So for my case, when I'm at 200, the closest one is 256. So in this format, it will actually accept it. But for the BLP itself, it doesn't really need to have these dimensions. It's only for World of Warcraft to accept it. So this is just like a little measure. Right now, what I can really do is just drag it and drop it on BLP converter, and there is the resulted texture, the resulted BLP. But right now, it is not very effective way of doing it. So I am using the CMD lines for it. Should I just bring these and enter the CMD file? Let's just have a look. I will copy the path, insert it here, do the exe, and copy the path of this one, insert it, and it's .png. Let's press enter, and there you go. Converting has been done. So this is a way of how you can actually convert it while using the console for it. But also don't forget about the fact that the CMD can use parameters. Like, well, you can define them there. and many programs actually uses parameters and so on. And the BLP converter actually has several of them as well. So let's just check what we can do with it. Let's quickly delete the BLP here. And if I would like to use this PG colors for character texture, textures, which are the body textures, I would need to use param H. I did a mistake. Oh, sorry about that. There it is. So just param H, and right now there is the result using the param H. If it would be for a WoW clothing, it would need to be param R. There it is, and now it would be accepted. If you are not going to use these params for the clothes and the body, you will basically end up most likely with the green textures, because the World of Warcraft can't read what you just created. Let's just return to the beginning. There is the resulted BLP, and let me bring up my BLP lab. There it is. You can see that the format is DXT1, and there is no alpha channel and stuff. Let's actually try the param R, and right now we can open this one, and you see it actually changed from the format DXT, now it's split. And that's the difference. With using these params, you are changing the formatting of the BLP, so it's actually a bit different each time, and the World of Warcraft is accepting different formats of the BLP for different stuff. So this is like the only two things that you actually need to keep in mind. That if you are creating WoW clothes, you need to be using the R. If you are creating the body textures, it's H. Everything else is kinda just, you know, sportive, and it's not really required to be used. There is like pause upon completion, like, okay, handy for drag and drop use, but for the next method I'm going to be describing, it's not really required. No MIPS, that's actually not really required as well, but it will decrease the size of the BLP, so you can go with it. But World of Warcraft is using some technology to decrease the RAM usage by loading the lower MIPS of the image when you are further away from it. So let's go back to the BLP lab, and like here you can actually see the MIPS. It's getting smaller as I'm decreasing the MIP size, and there you're actually even seeing its width and height is decreasing as well. So basically the further you are from the object, the lower version it's going to load, and this way it's eating more resources and stuff. So it's actually a good way to be using it, unless you really want to have the highest possible texture all the time, which is not really a good thing to have under certain circumstances. So the Balkron was actually describing this thing in his guide recently, so it would be good to check it out. Multiple file modes, yeah, so you can basically add as many textures as you can in the arguments. Basically here you can just add other and other and other and other, but also pay attention to the fact that these command lines actually have some of its maximum length, so you can't just, you know, stuff everything you have in there, because you will eventually reach the maximum possible length. Anyway, list formats, yeah, this is actually a good thing if you want to list what you can do. Info mode, why not? You can actually have some extra info, but I'm not using it at all. Force format is good, so sometimes when you really need to, but it's not like you will use it a lot. Pause on error, that can happen when you have corrupted PNG, but that's a rare situation. Create a MIP test image, it's just testing purposes, and there is the alpha threshold, which you won't really use a lot unless you know what you are doing with the alpha. So this is like the older params for the BLP. And now, how can we actually make this process a lot faster? So let's check it out. I'm going to delete the BLP here and make it smaller. Okay, so I'm going to open the properties of my computer, and there is the advanced system. This is, by the way, for the Windows 7. I don't know how it actually works on Windows 10 since I never use those. You will have to check online. What you are seeking is environment variables. It's pretty common stuff for all the Windows versions, so I would be surprised if you would not succeed in finding the guide for other Windows systems. There it goes. They are our paths. I will jump using end key on the end. And right now what we want to do is add a path to a folder where is the BLP converter exe present. By doing this, you will be able to basically call the BLP converter from anywhere in your system without needing to have the BLP converter actually in your folder where you are working. So let's make a new folder. There goes the test folder. There goes the PG core. Right now, if I would, for example, enter this folder and wanted to do the conversion here, the same way I was doing it in the previous folder, just like this, it would not work. But if I'm going to add a folder that contains the BLP converter, what is Windows actually doing is that it will check all these folders that you have entered here for the command you have here. And right now the command is the BLP converter 8.exe file. So once you enter the folder by just doing, for example, this, like this, enter, and don't forget the last character, it's there. Right now it would read from here, it would find the BLP converter I'm calling, and it would use it even in this test folder. So this is the way you can actually do it. I have already added my path, so I'm not going to accept this one. I'm just going to delete it and show you where is mine one. To be honest, I have lots of paths here, so I'm not going to iterate through it here. I will just cancel it and bring up the text editor. Over here I have I'm using the path BL, so there it is. There is like C modulus BL. This is my custom path where I'm actually stuffing all the modding tools, and because the path is present there, it would work even in the test. As you can see, it actually worked. I don't have the BLP converter here in this folder, and yet it works. So this is how you can actually use the path. And right now I'm going to quickly delete the BLP converter from here because I don't obviously need it as I have it in my path. And so this is some small mastery of using the Windows to help you with your stuff. Right now, what can I do if I want to convert a lot of textures using the same method with the path? I can close the CMD lines from now on because we won't be using them at all. And I'm just going to switch to my BL folder that is here. I have lots of stuff in here that I'm calling from basically from anywhere in my system when I'm working on stuff. And what's going to be important right now for you are these CMD files that I have here, or can be called batch files, and these here. So thing is, this file path here is basically the extension of the command line we were just in. and I can enter the names, or can be set commands that are actually translated into the names of files in here. So I have here the PNG to BLP CMD that I have created, and let's see what does it contain. It contains the simple command line, which is a cycle for the variable in PNG do BLP 8 execute. So what does it do? It will go to a folder where we are going to execute this, and in every single file that contains PNG, it will do conversion, and as an argument is going to be the variable with its name. So let's see how it works actually. PNG to blp.cmd, and here you go. The command line appeared for me, and it started doing the conversion for all the PNGs in my folder where I was executing the command. There it goes. I can switch to details, sort by type, and there you see that every single file was converted to BLP, which is extremely handy. And I can delete the PNGs and return to my BL folder, and here goes the same for the BLP to PNG, so backwards. It's just the same. You just, instead of PNG, mention the BLP, because the BLP converter actually can recognize the file type you are giving it, which means it works backwards as good as it worked before. The only thing you need to pay attention that for Windows 7 it actually tends to remember the path here, like the last thing you have done. So if you want to get rid of it, you can just delete it, press enter, return to the folder. Now it's actually back. Now you can see where you actually are. Anyway, BLP to png.cmd, much faster, easier, done. It's here. Quickly, easy, and smooth. Let's dive deeper into what we can actually do with the CMD right now. I have the other file, which is the same as previous one, but it has the param D in its name. So what does it do? Is that it will delete the PNGs after the conversion. So if you want to really get rid of them, let's just png to blp underscore d.cmd, and boom, it starts converting. You can see the BLPs are appearing. When this cycle is done, it will delete the PNGs, and you are left with folder of BLPs only, and PNGs are gone, which is nice. And I could literally just do the same for BLP to PNG, because I just have those command lines prepared. You can see it's converted again. And there is the last one, which is with underscore D underscore R, and that one just adds this /R argument here after the for cycle, which means it will be recursive. So it will iterate through subfolders as well. You know, let's just folder, and here we go. It's just here, and there goes PNG to BLP with delete and recursive. Let's execute it here. There it actually goes. The BLPs are appearing. It's still happening in the BLP folder. Now you can actually see it's happening in the folder. So it's here. New files are appearing, and then the deletion. So we are again left with BLPs only, which is nice and smooth. So, like, I think I have just said everything I know, or let's say everything you need to know. I'm going to share these CMD files so you can stuff them in your bar that you would create if you are actually willing to. I'm not forcing you to. And last thing I'm going to say is that you need to pay attention to the params. For example, if I would be creating the WoW texture clothes, you can adjust the param R, or for the body param H here, and it would work. So you can create a whole new CMD files with these parameters for converting lots of stuff. But since World of Warcraft is actually storing the WoW clothing in texture components, it has a lot of subfolders. So let's just do .r for recursive and .r for the BLP converter. So he's going to accept the WoW clothing textures, and like this, it would be a very good way to do it. As for everything else that is not body texture for the characters or the clothing texture, you can just use the default conversion, which is basically as simple as this here. You can just do BLP converter, and as an argument you just give it to the file you are converting, and the default conversion using these basic settings is something that is widely accepted by World of Warcraft quite anywhere. For the interface, for the textures of creatures and buildings and objects, M2s, VMOs, even for like transparency accepting stuff, particles. The only case where I actually can like remember right now where it would be maybe creating a bit of a problems are like icons, because they tend to be drag-able, and in that time they are like becoming a child of your mouse, which is kind of a bit more complex process. So if you'll be creating an icons, pay attention to formatting that icons actually have. You can check it easily in interface, and there are icons, so you can just open these and check what formatting they actually use. Let's have a look. I'm going to quickly load the BLP template, and there we go. Compression is 2, alpha depth is 8. So compression, it actually seems like DXT to 8-bit alpha, something like this. So you can try to force these arguments using the command line we have been showing before, if you ever run into these problems. Well, that's everything. Hope it helped, and see you another time.